All right. I'm Stuart, Elliott. I'm the editor-in-chief of The Real Deal. I'm back for more today. Our next panel is Pushing Luxury Limits about residential real estate in LA, and we got a big panel here. I can see all the way down there to Kamini. So this is a market that's been pummeled over the past couple of years by interest rates, unpopular mansion tax. It's been a low inventory, low sale environment. And there's some new headwinds, some new rules about brokerage we're going to go through today. And nobody's really talking about it being a boom market anytime soon. Usually the fall is the second busiest selling season of the year, and it's going to maybe be a little shorter this fall because of the election, sometimes creates uncertainty. But there are some green shoots that I think the brokers up here are seeing in the market. Maybe it's the prospect of interest rates being down a little bit, stock market being higher. And I got a great group of panelists up here today. Spencer on the last panel mentioned how more and more of the business is going to fewer and fewer of the agents. These are probably the agents that are going to get that business. So I want to introduce them right now. We've got Aaron Kirman, sitting right there.
Thank you.
Founder and CEO of Christie's International Real Estate, Southern California. He's quickly scaled up the business to 200 agents, which is pretty incredible. Also got the top team in LA. His sale of the one set a record for LA at the time, $141 million. We'll get into that today. We got Sally Forster Jones here. Closed more than 6,000 deals in her career. That's a lot, including for the Spelling Manor, which set a record for LA at the time. And her team at Compass just merged with another team, Tomer Friedman's team. Now they're expanding to 12 different markets, which is pretty incredible for a team to do, 12 different cities. And she also specializes in new condo development projects, which is an interesting niche in LA. We have Linda May of Carrollwood, right next to Sally. And as you guys know, Carrollwood's the new player in the game. They're the buzziest new brokerage right now, besides Aaron's. And she's done $4 billion in sales over her career, so I want to hear more from Linda. And then we have Kamini Lane, President and CEO of Coldwell Banker. She's the top brass out here today. She oversees 55,000 real estate agents, 600 offices on the ground in LA, second biggest brokerage after Compass. Kamini was previously president of Sotheby's for brokerage there and president of the West for Compass, so she knows her way around all the brokerages. So we're going to hear more. And I want to point out that there are no reality TV show brokers on stage here today, which we usually have. Though Aaron did a stint on CNBC for 1 year. So we know what they're saying on stage today is not just for their next episode of Lowbrow Listings LA or something like that. So I want to see a show of hands. Who in the crowd's from residential real estate? All right, nice. Okay, so we know who we're talking to. I want to start with a question ripped from the headlines. It's the new NAR rule about commissions that say buyers have to sign an agreement with a broker. And it's before they look at a property. So I want to ask you guys, how much confusion is this causing? What are you kind of telling buyers? How are you kind of navigating this? Linda, I know you were talking a little bit about it beforehand.
Well, I think for all of us, it's been a shift. It's brand new. It just started August 17th. So I think a lot of us, most of us have been on this huge learning curve. But I think just as the days, it's just been days, have gone by, we're getting a lot of confidence in what we're doing and how we're doing it. I think that we were just speaking backstage that, we had never had to tell people what we did, it was just assumed that they knew all of the hard work, how many houses we had shown them or what went into doing due diligence. And I think that being able to be confident and suddenly tell people just what we actually do, we've gained a new respect inside of ourselves, for our colleagues. And I think that something we were horribly intimidated about, or at least I was, I'm really gaining strength and pride actually in saying what we do because we do a great job at it. So it's Linda, coming along, and it's the law. We're working with it.
And how educated are buyers about this? Are they know something about this, and are they trying to bring in lawyers? Like, what's been the kind of response in general from any of you guys?
Yeah. Well, do you know
Yeah.
what? My experience has been, is my sound okay?
Yeah, do you want to just speak right into it?
Yeah. My experience has been really, just both on the buyers and sellers. It's really been, prior to August 17th, there was more confusion because it was, the anticipation. So I had a lot of buyers and sellers asking, what is that going to mean? What is that all going, what's going to happen? Do, the buyers, brokers, their, commission is going down? All of that. Really, what has transpired, really, from what I see, is first on the listing side, on the seller side. For me, it's been business as usual, because sellers want to sell, and so they want to entice buyers to buy and brokers to bring their buyers. So the conversation has been very, very straightforward. Do you want to sell? Or don't you want to sell? Do you want to expose the property and get as many buyers as possible? And the answer has always been yes. So, and they really want to, particularly my developers, they want to sell their properties. And so they're ready to even offer incentives to the buyers, brokers. And then on the buyers' side, the buyers, that's a little bit more challenging, because, as Linda was saying, it's really all about articulating your value. And if you don't know what your value is, it's going to be more of a challenge. So it's really honing in on articulating what your value is, demonstrating to a buyer. I have a list of 99 things that we do as a broker, and demonstrating what you really do and where your value is, and that going to, there's always been those buyers who really wanted a deal. There's going to be those buyers that still want a deal, and it's, what do can you do it for, 2.5%, or are you going to do it for 3%, or they're going to want to say, okay, I only want to pay you $5, and then you, as the agent, have to make that decision. Who do you want to work with? And the good news really for the buyers, brokers, is that you get a buyer to commit that they're actually going to work with you and pay you if the seller does not. So that's much more than we've had before, where a lot of the buyers, brokers were just running around and never getting paid.
Right.
And are you seeing on the converse side, sellers saying, okay, great, well, buyers should pay commissions now? I mean, are they trying that gambit?
What I'm seeing is some sellers saying, well, let's see what the deal is. Let's see what that offer is going to be. But in the end, really that conversation it's all about, the same money. It's like the buyer's only going to pay what they are able to pay. So if they really have to pay the buyer's broker, then that is going to be a challenge for that buyer, and they're going to want to pay less for your house. So it is really just really how to articulate it, and it's going to take a minute, because it's really since, August 17th. So, there's going to be some fallout with some brokers who cannot really handle it, but it comes back to having that conversation.
And Kamini, what are you telling your agents about this, and how are you doing the educational effort in terms of just making sure they know what they're doing?
Yeah, I mean, what we're telling our agents is be prepared for awkward conversations, right? Be prepared to negotiate, be prepared to articulate your value, as Sally said, and do it up front, right? Don't get caught flat-footed. Have that conversation with your buyer and your seller at the beginning, at the onset of that relationship, so that it's out there, because fundamentally what we're talking about is compensation for services, right? And the bottom line is that cost is only an issue in the absence of value. So if you start talking about value, what are you doing to help facilitate the most important financial and emotional decision of most people's lives, then all of a sudden it's not a conversation about nickeling and diming, it's a conversation about fair compensation for incredible value. And so what we are telling our agents is to have that conversation up front, be transparent, be very clear that commissions are negotiable, and be very clear about the value that you're providing and the compensation you expect.
And Aaron, are you worried about this driving down commissions or any kind of unintended consequence?
We haven't seen that yet. When I'm going in listing appointments, every time now the seller thinks that they don't have to pay compensation. It's come up 9 times already. And it's something we have to deal with. And, once we educate them, once we teach them, once we tell them, listen, and Sally said it best, the house is either going to sell or not sell, and either people are going to show your house or not show your house. And at the end of the day, buyers want representation. And the reality is most buyers don't want to pay for it. They want the sellers to pay for it because that's what we've done forever and a day. And so it's taken a little bit, for me, the buyers have actually been fairly easy to sign the representation form as long as they believe the compensation is going to get paid by the seller. And
right.
Where I've been noticing the distinct difference is sellers are like, I don't want to pay a commission. What are we going to do? And after you educate them, teach them, kind of let them know that if they don't do it, the concern is that buyers want the representation. If they don't have it, agents aren't going to be able to show your house. And now you're going to be having a real issue with value. What do you prefer? Do you prefer to pay a commission, or do you prefer to have your house be worth a lot less? And after that conversation, everyone pretty much signs the line and is willing to actually pay even more sometimes.
So you just have to reiterate kind of that it's business as normal in a different, skin, essentially.
Listen, I think, at the end of the day, this was an attack on an industry trying to get us to lower our compensation. But the reality is it's too important of a business to actually do that because buyers need to have great representation. And at the end of the day, the transactions don't get done unless they have that. So it goes hand in hand. And my hope is that sellers continue to pay what they need to pay so that we could keep our business moving forward and get deals done.
Yeah. And I'm curious, what you guys see that the National Association of Realtors is doing to get word out about the commission changes or educate agents. Shouldn't there be TV commercials or mailers or what do you think? Because they also kind of led the industry into this in a way with the lawsuit in the first place.
I mean, listen, as a day-to-day broker, I stay in my lane, and I there's certain things that we could control and certain things that we can't control. What we can't control is external forces, but what we can control is how we deal with it. I think it would be great if they stepped in and said, really the fundamental issue is sellers should be paying commissions. Buyers need to sign the representation forms. And I think there needs to be a real education. And it's not just at the broker level. It's on an industry level of the value proposition that we give to our clients, because we give our all, and hope that everyone's going to do the right thing along the way.
Just to chime in there, I also think there's a really big opportunity for us to raise the bar in the profession as a whole. Because, at the end of the day, if you're an agent who's not able to articulate your value proposition, defend your commission, and demand compensation, how are you going to negotiate on behalf of your client, whether it's on the sell side or the buy side? So, we've had a lot of agents come into this business to be fair, to respond to the huge demand for housing post-COVID. But I think that we have an opportunity to raise the bar of what's expected of a real estate professional.
Right. It seems like it's going to probably diminish the ranks a little bit, but it's going to increase the further professionalization of real estate, which has been happening over the last, couple decades, right? Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say also, I think it's much more important that we control the narrative, because to date, there's been so much media hype and so much confusion prior to where we are right now. So prior to August 17th, I had so many questions because, from buyers, from sellers, from people who were really sophisticated but still had no clue what was going on because there was all this media hype. So I think it's really important that we get control of that and really control that narrative and what the messaging is.
And the media was horrible. The media was like, "Oh, buyer commission is gone." I mean, it honestly couldn't have been worse.
Yeah.
I read it every day, and I was like, "What is happening here? This is a nightmare." And again, what we teach, what we taught our brokers, and what I do is, the education. But beyond that, the narrative has to change, and it's up to us to change the narrative and protect our own businesses. And there's 100 different ways to do it. It's education, it's purpose, but it's also understanding that there is a possibility that at some point commissions may go down. We hope not, but it may. And so it's really important to continue to try to get those listings and be a listing agent, because at the end of the day, when you are a listing agent, you do control the market in a better scene.
Right. And I'm going to just say from a more positive as opposed to defensive position, because a lot of the media and hype and responses have been defensive, and it has to change. That whole tone has to change, where we are the professionals, and this is our profession, and we create all this value on one of the most important, events in everyone's lives. A home is really, really personal and really stressful, and having an advocate who will really take care of you, understand you, and provide real value in the best scenario is critical. And again, I think it has to be from a value and a positive and not a defensive position.
The one thing that is the real truth of the whole thing is that the buyer always paid the commission. I mean, at the end of the day, no seller took any deal that he didn't, in his mind, understand what he was paying the buyer. So it's just that the conversation has to be changed. But that is the reality, is that no seller took any deal without inputting what he was going to pay the buyer.
Right.
Which, if you break it down, all of this was kind of a mess for our industry, because I don't know about you guys, but if a seller didn't want to pay a commission, they negotiated, and that happened day in and day out every day.
Yeah.
So the basis for where we went, I personally don't buy into, but it is where we are where we are.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like there are some green shoots for real estate now. I mean, if you look at the presidential election, Kamala Harris is talking about building 3 million homes, and I think the YIMBY movement and all that stuff. There's something in the air, maybe not on the ground in LA quite yet, that is a little bit more pro-housing and pro-real estate, which I think is a good thing. People recognize just the affordability. It's the problem's gone on too long. Now, in the luxury market, it also seems like there's been a little bit more activity lately. Maybe it's interest rates. Do you guys want to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the luxury market has been for 2024 and 2023 really, I think, the bright spot and the consistent bright spot in the real estate industry. We've seen an increase in volume year over year in the $10 million plus price range, and prices continue, mind-blowingly, prices continue to rise, which obviously, might not be a good thing for affordability, but is a good thing for the industry overall. And we've actually seen at Coldwell Banker Realty that our global luxury agents are growing their business at a pace that far outweighs non-global luxury agents. So it really, there's so much opportunity in this business. We also have seen record percentages of all cash transactions. So the reality is, especially when we're in an environment where interest rates are unknown and everyone's sort of, sitting on the edge of their seat, seeing when there might be a rate cut and how much that might be. When you think about delving into opportunity, it really is in luxury.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and on the luxury market, one of the things that's really critical is, the interest rates, people are feeling better about the interest rates. They have come down. The talk is that they're going to be coming down some more. But on the luxury buyer, what's really much more important to them is what is going on in the stock market. Are they feeling wealthy or are they feeling poor, even if they're not poor? And the stock market going up and being where it is, which is close to an all-time high, has made them, feel really comfortable. And so there's a lot of money out there. There's a lot of the luxury, the high net worth individuals have really had, very, very good years. And so the luxury market right now, if they want to buy, they are buying. And we're selling, we're selling. So that is really, for us, is the strongest part of the market.
Yeah.
I'm seeing it a little bit more nuanced. We're seeing a lot of buyers in the luxury segment stay on the sidelines. And then, our business is always super random, and all of a sudden we read about a $200 million sale or $150 million sale, and how did that happen? And it's hit or miss, and it's ebbs and flows. The reality is the wealthy are getting wealthier, and what we as a brokerage decided to target is we are watching who is actually buying these homes. Right now, if you have a house above $25 million, 80% of those buyers have been from Asian countries, China, Taiwan, Singapore. And so I always say as real estate agents, we go where the money is, and the goal is to get those people before they get to us, because then you could represent them as a buyer, help to control the marketplace. And so watching the flows of where the really wealthy are buying and what they're buying is important. And what we notice is people are buying for a reason. Like, they're not just buying because they need a house to live. They're buying because they need a house to live, they want to invest in a different country, and perhaps they want their kids to go to school in LA.
Yeah, and this is something you're seeing, that money, that Asian money, is just in the last couple months, or how long has that been going on for? Because it seems like it's a return of...
I think that part of what's happened, though, in luxury is that, at least what we've been tracking, is that 80% of the deals over $20 million so far this year have been actually domestic, except that international people have come in, bought multiple houses, bought, as you were saying, more than one house that came from other countries. But a lot of the sales that we were tracking over 20 million have been domestic.
We're tracking differently because so this is the beauty of real estate. It depends on the day, the hour, the week, the minute, and how we're ranking ourselves. And every time, it's always an ebb and flow. So we definitely have seen that the bulk of buyers are international. So who knows?
Yeah,
we're both right.
And Aaron, you said that's Chinese money that's coming in?
We're seeing a lot of Chinese money back in.
And is that, that's curious. There was obviously problems getting money out of China, and it was peaked back in 2016. What do you account for the return of that money now? Do you have any thoughts about why?
Listen, usually the wealthy figure it out. If you're running a multi-billion-dollar company in China, most of the money is coming from Hong Kong, it's coming from Singapore, it's coming from other places. It's already out of China. But you kind of have to look at China as a whole. It's a massive country with a massive amount of billionaires, millionaires, and everything in the middle. So by its sheer volume, they're going to always be, even when they are not as relevant as they were before, they're going to still be a mass amount of buyers that are buying.
Yeah.
I think another piece of it is that the U.S. real estate market is one of the most secure and stable investments in the world. And I would maybe even venture to say the most secure and stable and predictable, even though it is crazy, investment in the world. So when you're in, a year where there is so much instability globally, in China, but also obviously, around the world, people who have money want to park it in a place that is safe and that they know for sure is not going to melt down, and that's the U.S. real estate market.
And especially because when you go to other countries and you look at real estate, I don't know if any of you guys have, this system is not transparent whatsoever. They don't have MLSs a lot of the time. They don't have history of what's sold. I was just in Europe and I was looking at property and I would ask people, well, what did this sell for? What did they buy for? I got not one answer. They're like, it's private, we don't know. And part of me thought it was kind of nice. I was like, wow, you could really make a lot of money doing this because nobody knows anything. And that's a beautiful thing. But on the flip side, it really made me appreciate what we have here because we have a transparent system that's clean, that's clear. And I think that's why so many people from all over the world, including Americans, want to be part of it because we know what we're getting.
Yeah, there's also been a change in the, also in what the high net worth individuals are buying, because they have their own issues about security and privacy. And so LA has traditionally been a residential home market, but what we are seeing is on the luxury, we have several projects right now that are just, really high luxury. We have a Rosewood condo project. We have Beverly West, which is also a very high level project. And both of those, we're inundated with buyers. And the buyers are looking for, one, they want that security. We have on a Rosewood project, we have armed security 24/7. They want the security, they want the privacy, and that has really been a huge impetus and a change in what is going on in our marketplace, because this was not our market, just having luxury high-end condos, but those are, for me, right now, that is, the busiest that we've been, and that's with those, with those projects and with those buyers. And they have been, interestingly, almost exclusively domestic, just domestic, local, mostly LA, local buyers who just are gravitating to that, that's the security and the privacy.
Yeah, it seems like you're hearing a lot more about condos. Linda, do you
I
agree?
think that in the previous, one of the previous panels you had several of the developers, speaking, and we've sold quite a few units in all of those projects, including Sally's. And I think that there is a shift, and part of it is older people are transitioning to more comfortable living. They want to get rid of gardeners and pool people and maintenance and their own private security guard and all of that. So I think there is a shift into, secure living. I think that's on a lot of people's minds right now. Being in a safe place. I know people want to be in Beverly Hills. Beverly Hills goes a long way because they have a great police and fire department. So I think that we're seeing that transition again. We've seen it at other times for people wanting to live in, communities that are secure and have amenities. And now the amenities are extremely posh. So you're giving up very little from your house to go and do something at a, fabulous condominium.
Yeah, but it's not only, the downsizing or change, it is on every age level. Just really, again, this is a very, very important feature right now, very much on people's minds. And again, for the high net worth individual, what they want is they want the service, and they don't want to deal with all of the things that they have been dealing with. They just want to streamline that.
Right. Maybe Oceanwide should come back and finish that project. Now, I don't think it would work in downtown. Obviously, we're talking Beverly Hills. And Linda, I'm curious, you mentioned 80% of that 25 million and up sales price being domestic. Is it mostly or almost all like West Coast or local LA? Like, I'm curious how much you're getting from the East Coast.
I don't have the breakdown, but I think actually a lot of it was and I don't know, I don't want to say like a percentage, but a lot of it were local people moving up. Mm-hmm. So we saw this year a lot of local people finally. I think that everyone will agree this year is so much better than last year, and that people finally they grew out of their houses or had change in their marriages or whatever the situations were, but people moved. People finally moved, and I think that a lot of that 82 or 84% was local.
I think the word luxury is like super overused in real estate. I think everybody claims luxury, uses luxury, but the reality is luxury needs to be defined because we don't exactly know what the definition of that is. So, some people define luxury as 5 million and over, some do 10, some consider luxury 35 million. So I think the market's super nuanced, and I think that there's opportunity in every market, whether it's multi-unit, luxury. It's reported that there's, especially in Malibu, multiple $100 million sales, close to $200 million when we've never seen these kind of numbers. In LA, Bel Air, Beverly Hills, we're finally beginning to get to that big numbers again. It was stalled for a minute, but there's been 60s, 70s. There was recently 100 and something million a couple days ago. So it's coming. I think it's back. I think the allure of where we are is people are ready to buy. People want to get back in the game, and they're over sitting on the sidelines. Mm-hmm.
I think what Sally said is right, that people are wealthy. People have been sitting on the sidelines. Everybody knows people have been unsure which way to go. Should they buy the house now? Should they wait? Are interest rates coming down? Not that they're going to put a loan on, but they just needed more, assurances that things had stabilized. Mm-hmm. And I think that's finally what's happened.
And particularly now after Labor Day, summer is over, there's a focus, and there's just a lot more enthusiasm in the marketplace. Just a lot more energy, and with buyers just really, ready to buy right now.
Yeah.
And that's because the interest rates are coming down, and it is what it. Just the mere comment when the Fed say interest rates are going to come down moves the market. It's unbelievable. Even if the market doesn't move, even if they don't bring them down, people pick up the phone, and it's amazing because the more, the lower it gets, the better the market's going to be. And if I was to predict where we're going to go, as long as interest rates keep going down, I think the market's going to explode.
Yeah. I hate to bring up a negative sort of bugaboo, but ULA, what is a point at which people, do you think people will stop bitching about that at some point and move on, or how does that finally kind of get phased out of people's?
I think the city is going to. I think the city eventually is going to realize they're losing billions of dollars to make a couple $100 million. And if the city officials were smart, they would eliminate it immediately because it's just an unbelievably stupid tax. And I think that once they really study how many commercial buildings are not selling, how many apartments are not being built, and
deals.
Correct, because at the end of the day, we're a city that needs to build housing. And if you look at the way the city's built, just to get a piece of land anywhere is going to cost somewhere between $1 million and $2 million. And by the time you build that out, you're over the threshold of ULA, and that's going to stop all development. Look at the commercial building sector right now, which is a tough sector in general, but look at what's happening in LA. It's getting desecrated. And so I think a smart city should be incentivizing people to buy, because cities that don't grow are cities that die.
I think if we get to the moment in time where the devil is in the details and the public at large actually cares about the details of ULA, that's when there's actually a chance, right? When there is a conversation about where's the money going, what is the trade-off between money generated and money lost for jobs, right, for housing availability. I think that's a moment in time where we can actually have a much more nuanced and forward-thinking conversation. Unfortunately, just from a news cycle perspective, I don't think we're there right now.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
It was just in the paper this morning, and I spoke to Nick Siegel, our manager, today about this very subject, about how we need more transparency. There was the newspaper article said $333 million had, I'm sure other people saw it in the LA Times today, $330 million had been distributed from ULA. Their original estimates were close to $1 billion. And what nobody understands is that it's all real estate transactions. They keep using the name mansionization,
Right.
which is wrong, because it keeps the myth going that it is all coming from residential real estate. So if they actually broke this $333 million out, would it have been $100 million or $150 million from lost revenue on commercial transactions? Or was it $100 million from actual house sales? I think what Kamini is just saying, they need the details on this.
Yeah.
We need to really break it apart and just quit calling it mansionization, which is completely not transparent and has not, told the truth.
It's
about
preserving the
law.
political soundbite, right? It's
soundbite.
keeping the political soundbite, which is not actually
And
true.
To Aaron's point, people aren't even talking about development deals. We've had more people walk off fabulous opportunities on land sales, dirt sales, where the developer turned around and said at the end, I don't know what my exit's going to be. I'm taking a pass. And how many people are employed on a big project, on a project that's $10 million or something like that, or even $5 million, like you said, entry level. How many people are employed in 2 or 2.5 years? All the work people that are employed in that time period have no job. They are not working, and that's what mansionization is not addressing.
Right.
But listen, I'll give them credit. It was a very smart ploy to get voters to vote yes, because they angled smart. I think it's a horrible thing.
Yeah.
But I got to give the guy credit or girl credit for using that term, because it got through when it never should have.
And they voted on it in Chicago later on, and they voted it down. So, because people knew more about what it actually entailed. But I guess if there was a political wish list for a more moderate LA, it might be the city council scaling back ULA, maybe Mayor Bass being more, doing more enforcement on homeless encampments and DA election. I mean, it might not take that much for LA to get more like what San Francisco's doing now.
You know what? It's not working the way it is. So that is obvious from the fact that the revenue hasn't come in. It has been, just difficult, for the sellers. And again, not just, the residential, particularly, on a commercial property, it does not get
A disaster.
It affects, but it's not like, that almost every commercial or larger multifamily is affected by it. So it is much more of a challenge, I think, really on the commercial and the multifamily, than it is on the residential. So it's not working. So the question is how is that going to change? Right now, we have that. It is here. We have to deal with it, right now, day to day. I still have sellers trying to figure out which angle and how to, sell parcel, part of it and all these, just all the different angles. But it's going to have to, it's not working. So there was a measure that was going to go on the ballot this November, which unfortunately was shut down, and there's other measures that are now being talked about for 2026. So that's another couple of years.
Yeah.
But it's eventually, it's just not working.
Yeah.
It's not dealing with the homeless. There needs to be, just a different or better homeless plan that's really thought through, and this isn't it. So
I had a seller that
right now we have it. Go ahead, Harry.
No, I was going to say I had a seller that didn't want to sell a house. They always think their house is the best, most expensive house on the best street, that. And I said, listen, here's the reality. And I didn't know this, so I did the comps. And I said, our luxury market, and by luxury, I mean in this conversation 20. I believe luxury is 10 myself, but this was a $20 million conversation. We were down by 65% in transactional volume on $20 million plus homes since 2022. And that's a big number of homes that are not selling, not because people don't want to, but because by the time you do the commissions, closing costs, and ULA, correct, you're at anywhere between 12 and 13%. And sometimes people's margins just aren't there.
Yeah, no. Oh, go ahead, Kamini.
I was just going to say, I do think, though, that the counter to that is the fact that prices keep going up, right? I mean, the $3 to $5 million range, prices are up 40% from 2022. And so if you can, once again, as a real estate agent, go into that conversation to say, yeah, you know what? ULA feels like a barrier, but let me talk to you about what has changed that's a hedge against that actually makes sense for you to sell your home, that you shouldn't, that's a reason that you shouldn't wait.
Yeah.
3 to 5 is obviously different. It's just a different market. I mean, and the, when interest rates rose, my prediction was the wealthy will continue to buy. I was super wrong. I didn't realize the 1 to 5 was going to continue to just flourish and go up, which just shows the resilience of the market and the buyers that are in the marketplace.
Yeah, and the $5 million house today is going to be a $7 million house in a year and a half.
All day long.
Yeah.
All day long.
I want to spend the last couple of questions asking you about the business of brokerage. So, Aaron, there seems to be a tension between teams and companies, and sometimes it seems like you get a little confusing. So you started up AKG, Christie's International after leaving Compass, and then recently rebranded to just Christie's. But you still have a big team within Christie's, and obviously you've grown it so much, so it doesn't even look like a team in any way, shape, or form anymore. So how do you kind of balance that kind of team company thing?
So we're not a team, we're a brokerage.
Yeah.
We opened a brokerage. I think where there was a mistake is it still had my name on the door, so we took my name off the door, and since we did that, we got a ton of top talent. Went from a brokerage that almost had nothing because we were new to a couple $1 billion a year. But I still sell real estate and I have a team. So my passion is doing both. It's been super fun to build an amazing brokerage. We're so proud of the agents that work with us. in what we consider a challenging market. They've excelled in luxury, they've excelled in numbers, and it's really fun to grow a culture that is based on teamwork, support, growth, and making sure everyone gets there. Because I think in this real estate world, it's not like the old days. We all need each other, and we all need to partner, and we all need to share. And the more that we do together, the better we'll all be. And we all kind of need to fight for the rules of where we're going to go for the future. So when that seller says, I don't want to pay a buyer commission, it's up to us to say, then you're not going to sell your house, or you're going to sell your house for a lot of money or a lot less. And so I don't know about you, but I love, the fact that we could work as a team and get so much accomplished.
Yeah, I agree. I really think that it's, we are at a pivotal point in our industry to either have a race to the bottom or to band together as an incredibly honorable profession and provide real value and not undercut each other and not get tempted by having an easier conversation that results in a faster sale, but actually thinking about protecting a lifelong relationship rather than just getting to the closing table.
Yeah.
And so I really think, teamwork and professionalism is more important today in the real estate industry than it ever has been.
And I think you're right. It might just become a more professional industry after all this stuff, even farther in that direction. I'm curious, Sally, you started this new group. You guys are going to expand to 12 markets. You're already in Dallas. That's a good example of a team that's almost become a company. So how do you navigate existing inside the larger, Compass environment?
Well, Compass is a great company, and they have been a great company, and so what we have is Tomer and I have worked together for 6 years and sold numerous properties together, and we're a very, very cohesive group. And what has happened is, part of it is that real estate in the world has become very global. And so it is not just local, it is really national and international. And so for us, we have, formed Jones Friedman International. We have a company within a company. So there's Compass, we have our company within that company. And the growth, it's really, again, about who are we, owning who we are, what's the value that we have, and just really creating that in different markets. So right now, we have about 50 people right now. Our headquarters are here. We're, Beverly Hills, Greater Los Angeles, but we have now an arm in Silicon Valley that is just embodies the same culture, the same service, and the same values, but it's now part of our marketplace, and they are part of our company. And in Dallas, and then we have all the other markets that we are looking at, which are really synergistic with what we have here, but the cultural fit, the service fit, everything is the same. It's, and they have to fit in and be part of that. And again, working that whole framework within Compass, recognizing the value that Compass has and what we have, and are expanding throughout that really nationally and internationally.
Yeah. So if people do leave LA for Dallas, you can get the business there. But also, who's going to want to move to Dallas because it's 120 degrees all year there?
Or they're going to come back. They're going to come back real quick.
Yeah, so they're going to come here.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Exactly.
But it's really been really amazing, and we're so excited about it.
Sally's trying to double sell here. She's trying to get them there, back, and in between.
Yeah.
Smart.
All right, well, I think that's all the time we have. I want to thank these guys. Thank you, Sally. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Kamini. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you so much, guys.